Well, good evening. The Who's today we're on at Warwick Farm. Last night we had the night meeting at Canterbury. Give you a very quick rundown of Canterbury. They played very leaderish, fence-ish, the old puppy track. The rail last night, well, the track was good for a start. The rail was 6 metres out, which sometimes can lend to make it a bit easier, surprisingly, believe it or not, for horses to come down the outside, but it wasn't the case last night. The fence was the place to be, and saving ground or leading on the fence was an advantage. And the first race we saw the favourite get home, Gullible. On the screen last night, I won't tell you what we got in the marketplace. Uh, I'll do that for Warwick Farm today as well. It was a lot less. You could always beat the screen, as you know. I've had a fairly big day, and I just haven't bothered adding them up. But I know that it was well under the 100 in most races. In the first race last night at Canterbury, 103.8. And this favourite, it only just got there, winning by half a length. But if it would have got a split when they turned for home, where it was held up for a good while, it would have won, I dare say, by 2.5 lengths instead of 2 lengths. So it would have been unlucky to get beat. And unfortunately, the pros, they had a large plate. It was extremely well back. We put it up short odds, $1.70, got out to $2, I think 40 at one stage, but only started the 5 to 4 chance about 2.25, and as I say, would have been unlucky to get beat. The next race, well, what do we see here? Leading on the fence, we saw Honourable Aussie. It held on and run third. Directly behind it on the fence was the winner, Planetarium. It finished up winning the race, and sitting in the 1-1 position was the Avery. That's Pipette, and when they turned for home, well, on the screen for a start, we had 104.6 on the screen. There was less than that in the marketplace, and when they turned for home, the favourite had gone around. Glare was sitting outside the lead, and it had dropped off before the turn, which left Pipette outside the lead, and getting in between the pair turning for home was the eventual winner. Pipette looked like it was going to go up and win. And beat Honourable Aussie, and it was going to run third, Planetarium, but the Father Schofield, he got the persuader out, and it showed a lot of vigour getting it home by a half a length on the line. It outstayed the other pair. All the others had their chance, except unfortunately the bias was against them. Race 3, there was 104 on the screen. And what happened here? We saw the 100 to 1 chance, Messiah's Duel. What box did it have? It had box 1. It had box 1. Leading on the fence was Kreskin, who I told you was very lucky to win at Gosford. And it had box 2, and box 1 was Melissa's Duel, Messiah's Duel, as I say. And when they turned for home, it was directly behind the leader on the fence. And when the leader kicked the 100, I bet 150 to 1 the winner, it was able to get off the heels of the leader, Kreskin, and go away and win by 2.3 lengths at the finish. And coming from midfield, sitting one off the fence was Straturbo. A bit hard to come from behind, and it made up plenty of ground, but as I say, got beat 2.3 lengths. And the leader, Kreskin, who had all the favours, leading on the fence, it ran third, and it was a big result for the captains. There were quite a few runners back. It was hard to lay. Straturbo, Benedictus the same, Kreskin very hard to lay. It was very well back. Pretty Famous, got plenty out of Pretty Famous actually. They took $2.80 off you at one stage for whatever you liked, and it started $3. Glimmer had got trapped 3 wide in the run. It finished up running last, so forget its run, and the others were hard to lay. Race 4, we had 96.8 only on the screen. There's less in the marketplace, and this was a complete and utter strip out for the bookies. The captains were feeling the effect of the pros here, because this winner, Inventive, and it was never, ever, ever going to win except for the last 2 strides. So it was back from $4.40. We put it up 5-2 favourite, or put it up 5-2 second favourite. What am I talking about? And it got out to $4.40. It did start right at $2.70 on the ball. When they jumped, they returned at $2.50. I paid the penalty, laid some really big bets, and when they took the short odds off me, I was quite happy to let them on for plenty of section. And as I say, I was quite happy in the run. And when they turned for home, the heavens, unfortunately, when they'd flattened out halfway up the straight, opened up. It was in between runners, and a huge gap appeared, and it was able to go out and catch the two runners on the line, which had the perfect run. Leading on the fence, Spectacular I Am, held on and ran third, beaten 1.4 lengths, and coming off its back along the fence from barrier 2 was Country Hustle. Would have been a great result for me. It got past the leader, and as I say, the favourite, Inventive, grabbed the pair of them on the line to win by 0.1 of a length. The opening favourite in the race, 10-0, it was extremely hard to lay. I haven't put his name in the ledger yet. It went from $2.80 to $4.40. Thank you very much. 7-4, 7-4 the field, 7-4 the field, 10-0, and at the death, it was 7-2, 10-0, and you couldn't find a customer. Where did it settle? It settled down in last position, a bit wide, came wideish on the widest runner on the turn, copped a bit of a check, and it was fairly disappointing. Race 5, 104.3 on the screen, and in the marketplace there was less. And this winner, it sat outside the leader. Talking about Cafe Lady, it led there last at the start of Canterbury, went and found the bunny. Didn't find the bunny today. Gibraltar's Gem from barrier 1, which finished up running third, just hanging on for third. It found the bunny with moving up on its outside, trailing it for a while down the back straight when the pace was on. It led fairly easy. Gibraltar's Gem, and Cafe Lady was able to get a suck behind it. It was a good 3 lengths to the rest of them all. Again from barrier 2 was running third, and when they'd gone out of the back straight, Blake Shin, my old Blake Shin, he was up on the outside of the leader, and he was able to get past it turning for home and win by 1.3 lengths. Coming from midfield, one off the fence, was the very well back Core Purpose. It started favourite. We put it up favourite at $3.20, got out to $3.50, back into $2.80 at one stage. You could lay it at $2.80, $2.90 for whatever you wanted, but it started at $3, and it eased off heels turning for home, loomed up as if it was going to more or less win, but it couldn't go on with it. It did run second, beaten 1.3 as I say, and held on for third, Gibraltar's Gem, having the bias in its favour, beaten 2.6 lengths. The runner that was very hard to lay in the race, which was most probably the best run, was In Excess. It drew a wide alley, barrier 9 in a field of 10, and unfortunately it settled down in last position, coming widest on the turn, making up a lot of ground in the straight to run fourth, beaten 2.7. Race 6, there was 105.1 on the screen, and this was won by the Owl, old Maury Benjamin. A lot of people might remember Maury. He was a tailor, and did he what? He looked like an owl, the Maury Benjamin. And anyway, the Owl, it was hard to lay with the Owl. It went from $6.50 out to $8. Leading on the fence was raring to win. It's a fairly ordinary conveyance. It finished up running fourth, or fifth actually, beaten about 2 lengths. So its run wasn't that good, and it was well backed. I laid it well at $4 at one stage. Went up $3.50, got out to $4, back into $3.80, back out to $4 at the death. But going back to the Owl, it sat in fourth position and eased off heels turning for home, and it finished up winning by 3/4 of a length. Coming off its back, running second, was Flight of Pegasus. It was well backed. Going back to the Owl, it was $6 out to $8, and as I say, a bit hard to lay, and gave bookies a result. What else was backed in this race? There are a few runners. It was well backed. Flight to Pegasus. Man of War, they took $8.50, but it was a bit hard to lay. The Lambo was labelled at one stage at $9. Lady Gazero, very hard to lay it, Lady Gazero. It went from $4 out to $5.50. It was back Bonds Arena at $51 they took. The next runner, God Bless Us, who was resuming from a spell, now trained by Anthony Cummings. It was well back from about as much as $9.50. He only started about $8, even $7.50. Raring to Win, as I say, was labelled at $4. Sherwood's Choice, it was 31, and the bottom one was 101. They were a bit hard to lay, that pair. And the Owl, even though it was only an $8 chance, it gave bookies, I'd say, a bit of a result. We came to the last, and what happened here? It was always going to lead, written in the stars, and it did. It had the perfect alley to where it was for a speed horse around Canterbury. That's all you got to. What you got to do when you train, if you get hold of a horse, is train it to come out of the boxes. If you've got a good beginner and a good railer, take it to Canterbury, and gee whiz, you're hard to beat, because it is a puppy track, I'm telling you now. This crossed, written in the stars, from an outside alley, found the bunny, and was able to hang on and win by 1.3 lengths from Tree Fern, who came from about third last position, making up plenty of ground down the outside, but as I say, beaten 1.3. They raced in pairs down the back, and then of course they eased off heels, turning for home, but they couldn't catch the leader, who found the bunny on the bias track. Leading on the fence was the place to be at good old Canterbury Park. Then we came to today at Warwick Farm in the first race. We had 104.4 on the screen, and we all know, it's a huge start in these early 2-year-old races for runners to have had that little bit of experience, and that turned out to be the case with All the Talk. Now, before it led on the fence and held on and won by 0.2 of a length. Now, the track today, it was good, and the rail was 3 metres out, and well, it might have actually been given out dead, and it was given out, no, I'm going bananas. It was given out good, and the rail was 3 metres out. We had a little bit of overnight rain, but very early this morning. The wind was fluctuating between a nor'easterly and a nor'westerly at certain times of the day. It was very hot there today, and the last race it had swung around, and there was a little bit of a sou'westerly blowing. So the wind didn't have any effect on any runners, and the track, some might have said that the fence was iffy, but they won on the fence, and they did come down the outside. The track played fairly fair and square today, so I wouldn't say there was any bias on it at all. Going back to the winner, All the Talk, as I say, with a bit of experience, it was able to lead, and just last from Romantic Touch. No, not from a Romantic Touch, from number 3, Happy Shinny, who unfortunately went at trial at Mr. Kick, and it missed the kick unfortunately again today by 3 lengths, and it settled down a clear last, but then was able to get past the rank outsider in the field, Consomme, and it made up a lot of ground in the straight. It was in 5th position, turning for home. It already got past Chaz, and who was well back in the field as well, and it made up, as I say, a lot of ground to only fail by 0.2 of a length. The favourite, Let's Frolic, it set outside the leader, had its chance, and Aspen, the locally trained runner by Peter Snowden, it sat in 4th position. It also had its chance, and Romantic Touch, trained by Gay, it held on fairly ordinary. It didn't lead, but it did sit in 4th position right behind the lead. It dropped out in the straight and was beaten 7.2 lengths. Both of Gay's horse and Snowden's horse were both hard to lay. We put them up nice and safe, at around about the 5 to 2 mark for both of them, but they went from 5 to 2 out to $5, whereas the favourite, Let's Frolic, well, $3 was given in the outside ring, but it went up generally about the 6 to 4 mark and got out to $2.80, but it was back very late in betting into about $2.60, fairly hard to get. The winner was backed at one stage at $8, I laid it at that price, and the second horse was also backed from $9 into about $8, and they might have been a bit stiff there not to get the cash. They don't appear to be very strong, those youngsters. Now race 2, on the screen we only had 104.6 on the screen, less in the marketplace, and this was won by the Avery, the horse coming from Melbourne, trained by Peter Moody, and it was taken straight to the lead. Well, it kept on hunting up on the inside and holding the fence, leading. We're talking about Office Bearer, and it was extremely well backed. We put it up, we'll have a shade of odds. Well, take your 10 for 9, but it quickly got out to evens, but that was snapped up, and they took the evens and they laid the 10 to 9 on, and they laid they were starting to lay the 5 to 4 on, taking the $1.80 close to jumping, and it was very hard to get the 5 to 4 on, and as I say, it led, and sitting on its outside and running second was Hunter Jack, who had won at Canterbury and got the favours there, and when they turned for home, staying close to the 18 pence was the winner, and it was able to get away from Hunter Jack and beat it by 1.5 lengths, and the other runners more or less had their chance. It was a little bit wide, half carting, Report, the roughie of the field, and also a little bit wide on the turn was Soapy Star, which finished up running third, but the winner was the best run in the race and also the best backed. Race 3, we had 102.2 on the screen. It was only about 100, a little bit less in the marketplace, about a spot, and this race was won by a very well backed runner, Bay Bell. It would have been a huge result for me last start, where I thought it had every chance, but it obviously improved with that run last start. It did cop a bit of a check at the start, Bay Bell. It settled back in third last position, and it was eased wide coming down the side, coming to the turn, and you could see it was going to be hard to beat at the after they turned for home, because it was coming fairly quickly. I suppose you couldn't be blamed for thinking that the favourite, Princess Layla, who led on the fence, if you backed it, that you were feeling fairly confident, because it had got, I'd say, 2 lengths clear. Sitting on its outside was Holy Moly, the well-backed second favourite, from $6 into $4.60. When they on the bend on the turn, he was able to get rid of it. He accelerated Princess Layla, ridden by McDonald, trained by O'Shea, and as I say, got well clear, at least 2 lengths, but making a very quick run was the winner, coming down the outside, Bay Bell, to beat it by 0.2 of a length on the line. They all had their chance in this race, and first and second were the best runs. Coming from second last and getting on the back of the winner was Our Design, but it had its chance. It ran third, beaten 1.5 lengths. Starting favourite, as I said, was Princess Layla. We put it up 350, got out to 380. It was into $3.20, very hard to get at one stage, even $3.10. But it got back out to $3.30, even $3. Well, it got back out to $3.50, but then back into $3.20 late in betting. Holy Moly, as I said, was $6 into $4.60, and more or less all of the others, except the winner, got out in the market. The winner was $9.50 into $7.50 taken. Started $7, fairly hard to get. Race 4, there was 103.6 on the screen, and in the marketplace there was a lot less. Well, not a lot less, but just enough to make it under the 100. And this was won by Fumicino, as we all know, hasn't won for a long time, and it was perfectly rated in front by Nash, taken straight to the lead, it was a good result for bookies, although $7.50 was taken towards the end of betting. It went up $5.50, got out to $7.50, back into 7 late, and Nash, as I say, rated this whole campaigner very well in the lead. And when they came to the turn, he was bowling along nice and steadily, or nice and strongly, and getting off his heels and coming from behind him on the fence was Ward, who raced up and looked like it would just about, will more or less go past him for a couple of strides, but then it started to drop off, and Fiumicino, it kept on going and coming through the fence, following Ward through was the second horse, King Utah, which would have been a great result for the captains, but it couldn't get there and failed by 3/4 of a length, about 0.8 of a length. Now the favourite here, Moriarty, it was extremely hard to lay. It went up at $2.40 and got out to $2.90, and you might have even been $3 when they jumped. Extremely hard to lay. It had every chance. Sat in the 1-out-1 position. It finished up running third, beaten 1.2, but it only plugged down the straight. Like the rest of them, they all had their chance. The ones saving ground on the fence in the staying race because of their evenness and one paceness, the fence was an advantage to, as it proved, with the leader winning and even the second horse saving ground. Race 5. Now, unfortunately, there was only 99.7 for the Robots. The Robots had plenty of customers today. Out there in the marketplace where we were was fairly warm, and just the usual, dozen usual suspects, and it was hard to make them play. Well, they played when something went off, but they didn't want to play unless something went off, and it was a fairly dismal sight in the betting ring. But you look up through the glass up in the grandstand where the Robots are, and boy, oh boy, did they have some customers up there in the nice air conditioning, letting them take the screen odds. And unfortunately, we couldn't do anything about it, Robots. There was only 99.7 on the screen, but down where we were, playing the hardest, toughest blokes in the world, there was only about 97. A little bit worse than what you had. But anyway, it turned out could have been a result. Well, it was a result for captains. Irish Jig won the race, went up $7.50, got out to $8.50, which was taken at one stage back into $7.50, but got back out to that price at the finish, about a 15-2 chance. And it came from midfield and was a little bit too strong for Uarte, who raced surprisingly close today. Uarte sat in third position. Leading was Tratana, who came across from an outside alley and set a fairly good solid pace. Falzon, who was also a bit closer today, it was running second on the fence, and outside it Uarte, and trailing those was the winner Irish Jig. The favourite in the race, Stratford, it missed a kick slightly and then went up towards the lead, but then was eased back, and he got on the back of Irish Jig, and when they turned for home, was able to get around Irish Jig very quickly and run up to the leaders. And I'd say the judge would have reached for number 8 for sure. He said, now this will go away and win. And most probably got it a long neck in front, but no longer had got there when, unfortunately, resuming from a spell. And I don't think it's that good anyway. The pressure told, and the Irish Jig and also Uarte were able to kick up on the inside of it again and finish up beating it, with Irish Jig sticking its nose out, beating, as I say, Uarte, and the favourite ran third. The others had their chance. The Stratford went up 6-4, got out to $3.50 in the outside ring, and I even saw $3.50 on the fence. And it was into $2.90 at one stage, even $2.80 at the death. The $2.90 was taken, and it started $2.80. But every runner in this race was backed. Every runner had a price, and why wouldn't it when you give 97 and a half all you got to do is back all of them, and you can't lose. Back them all to win. Ring up your corporate and say, I want to back every runner in that race to win 10,000. Shit, it doesn't matter which one wins. I want to back every runner to win 10,000. Top fluck, and you can't lose. Race 6, there was 103.5 in the screen, but there was less than that in the marketplace, and this race was won by Circle of Power. It was one of the first runners back, went up $16, which was snapped up very quickly. I think I might have pointed out that this was a little bit stiff last start, but anyway, it was back very early from $15 or $16 into about $14, a 13 to 1 chance, but it was $15 when they jumped again, and there was a protest here. It sat in between runners in about midfield Circle of Power, and it was protested against by Mr. Edison, ridden by Bold Blake Shin, and of course Killer Cat rode the winner, and the both of them went for a run at the same time. Bold Blake Shin saying, no, that run was mine, and Killer Cat convinced the Stipes that no, the run was mine, and she was able to go through the in-between horses. I think they, well, I do know who they were, but won't say, and she got the split, whereas Blake didn't, and he had to hook around heels, and he failed. He didn't run second, he ran third, margins being 0.5 by 0.7, and I suppose he could have been a bit stiff because he lost his momentum at that stage, and if he would have been able to get the run, he most probably would have won. There wasn't much between a lot of runners in this race. Too High Tech, it ran second. It came from last, and it was back to $41, was taken right towards the finish, and only started 31 hard to get. And some really nice bets laid against it. One of the pros found it late. Would have been a good result for him. He might have been a bit stiff. It came from last, and I thought his rider, Sam Clipperton, maybe he took off a little bit too early. He was one of the first to take off coming down the side. If he might have waited a little bit longer, he might have been able to swoop around them and win. But it's easy now. He's only been beaten a half a length. If he would have won by a nose, we would have said what a brilliant ride it was, taking off at the time, of course. It's easy to be riders in the stand, isn't it? Anyway, the race was a fair result for the captains. I'd say most runners, well, yes, every runner in this race was backed. Starting, well, Rigmarole was backed. Bay Window was backed, although the SP for Bay Window, they only returned it a $9 chance, an 8 to 1 pop. Well, I was $12, 11 to 1 when they jumped. And a bit similar with Al's Gold, I was $12 with it. I think they returned it a lot shorter. There was one runner, I must admit, that didn't have a name, and that was Censor. It went from about $6.50 to $12 or even $13. Bledisloe was back to win up $4.20, 13 to 4 chance. Favourite got out to $5.50 and started $4.60. There was the Circle of Power, I've told you, loaded. They took $8.50 at one stage. Mr. Edison, a bit hard to lay, $9 out to 12. Now this one was one of the best back, the second best back runner all day. We'll get to the last, where the best runner was back. The Great Snowman here. I put a fortune on this horse. It was back from $7 into $4. Might have been $4.20 when they jumped on one or two boards, but they killed you for the 7 and the 650 and the 6 and the 550 and the 5, and then they said, well, come on now, we'll take the 480, 460, 440, and they, well, as I say, they at least took 440 off you for whatever you wanted. It sat in the one out, one position in fourth place, had every possible chance, and went fairly ordinary. It started favourite, and the next runner, Too High Tech, as I said, was 40s taken towards the death, and they took $12. Was always firm in the market, Quick Peak, even though it was started $12, it was always layable at that price. And that was about the race. Run it over again and we get a few different results, but that was always going to be the case before they jumped in that race. Race 7, there was 103.4 on the screen, less in the marketplace, and the SP of this runner, similar to 1 or 2 in the previous race, Lady Be Great, they returned to $6.50. Well, I was $8.50 when they jumped, a little bit of difference there, 15% or 12%, 3% difference there, and I was $8.50 when they jumped. And to show you how the track played, it played fair. You could run on from behind or lead, and leading on the fence here was Ain't She Grand, and sitting on its outside was the winner, Lady Be Great, and they finish up running first and second. They didn't dawdle in front, and as I say, they held on, only a nose between them, and getting up on the fence, coming from about 4th last position, was Floral Insight along the from barrier 1 along the fence, and it was only beaten 0.6 of a length, and would have been a great result for the captains. Went up $12. I was 15 when they jumped, and it was very hard to lay. The runners backed in this race, well, Nupsy, well, I did lay it for something at $5.50, but I must admit, I think they returned to $6, well, $7 when they jumped. Elusive Lad, I was $13 when they jumped. Floral Insight, as I say, 15. Anything was always 101. Nash Rambler didn't have a price. Nash Rambler, it went from $12 out to 18. Now Cradle Knee, for some reason, I think they might have decided that it might have been a bit down the outside here for some reason, and Cradle Knee, well, was always going to be back and coming down in that down the outside. It did draw it did draw barrier 11 in a barrier 10 in a field of 11, and it was always going to be back. And as I say, coming down the outside, they only put it up about a $4 chance. It went up 3-1 favourite, Cradle Me, but God, was it reached for very quickly by the captains. It got out to $7 on every board, but it only started $4.60. It was $4 out to $7, back to $4.60. Extremely well backed. It made up plenty of ground, but it couldn't finish up running 5th, beaten about 1.7 lengths. Or 1 point length, what's the difference? And that was never more or less going to win. It was, well, back to say, Buckmore was $81 when they jumped on my board. They took 31. They took 31 tonk. At one stage, Forster, it was $7.50 into $6.50, but started back out to $7.50, but started $7. And as I say, the winner was $5.50 or $6 out to $8.50 on my board, and only returned $6.50. I don't know what the story was there. And the 2 leaders held on. It was trapped wide in the race, tonk, but they more or less all had their chance. Nupsy, it was always well back in the field, and it ran second last. It's not very big, Nupsy, and plus it had 59 kegs on its back. We came to the last. There was 108.6 in the on the screen. There's only about 102 in the marketplace. This is what we gave. I bet 10,050 number 1 Imperator. It started $101. A Real Prince, it went from $12 out to 16, back into 15. It was well back the next runner. Shamadi went up 15 out to 21, back into about 17. King's Dominion, a bit hard to lay, went from $5.50 or $6 out to 8. Mercy, I found it very hard to lay, $3.50 out to $4. Privately, the winner, also hard to lay. It went from $11 out to 15. The next runner, Mossamine, it went from 25 to 40, back into 26, was backed. Queenian, it was labelled at $15, $12 out to $15. You wouldn't believe it possible. $15. Taken at one stage, we started at that price. Disciple, it went up $4. No, it went up $3.50 favourite Disciple, but it was $4.60 when they jumped. I found it very hard to lay. They took the next runner was back, extra seed. He went from 31 to 41 back into 31. Youthful King, 21 out to 31 back into 26. Forewarned, I got a good bit of section out of it at one stage at $18. You wouldn't see it on the screen. I couldn't see how it was going to win. I bet as much as $26. It started 21 on my board. And now we get to the best back runner all day. Oh, no more for the favourite. That's my lovely daughter. Al, I'm just doing this. I'll give the phone to Mum. I'll give the phone to Mum. I'm just finishing on this last race. All right. Bye, darling. Love you too. Bye. So we come to the best back runner all day, and that was Tunes in the last race. How is it going to win Tunes? It went up. I bet $17 about Tunes. I didn't want to miss it. It was $17 into. Well, they were $7 when they jumped. I think they returned at $6.50, but they killed you for the 17, then the 16, 15, 14, 13, 11, 10, 9, 8, 8.58, and they even took $7.50 at one stage. I was $7 when they jumped, returned a bit shorter, and it settled well back in the field. It plugged down the straight, but it didn't have anywhere a good enough turn of foot to beat these runners. Resuming from a spell. That was about the day. It was a very hot day. Everybody, of course, is saying how the game is just becoming tougher and tougher every day. There are simply no punters. They're hard to find. The TAB has got them all taking unders. Next week, what I'm going to do is show a few comparisons. What you now whatever you do, don't tell the TAB punters for Christ's sake, because we don't want them coming out there. We're giving enough money away as it is to the people who are out there, the pros and their followers. So we don't want the TAB punters coming out there getting our cash, betting losing figures every race. But the comparison, what the SPs are with us, and the fixed odds when they jump with the tab. Oh, what a rob it is, and what a rob. Anyway, I hope you had some luck today, and I'll talk to you during the week. Good evening.